So I'm at the beach in Lantana Beach, and Johnny, my friend Johnny, was at the beach in Melbourne last night. So he did last night and I did this morning, and together we're bringing you this message about mini season. I thought Johnny was the perfect person to talk about lobsters and mini season because he actually did some research on lobsters, and he works with FWC, and he's just an all-around funny guy and great dad and husband to my friend Sember. So I'm just excited to introduce you to him, and you can hear what he has to say, especially his poop facts. Don't forget about the poop facts, Johnny.
Hello everybody, thank you Carly for the opportunity to speak with you and some folks about a really important issue coming up here. My name is Jonny Baker. I went to the University of Florida with Wildlife Ecology and Conservation program, and really fell in love with doing field work, and one of my first experiences out of college was working with Caribbean spiny lobsters and helping a professor of mine do some research impacting the fishery down there. So that's what really spurred it all. That's what got me started right out of school, and I had the dream job of living in the Keys and free diving. So that's where it all started. So I've had another opportunity to help educate the public on important issues involving animals. One of my favorite ones so far has been the Rob and Johnny show. I'm the better looking half of the Rob and Johnny show, as you can tell. Don't tell Rob. Anyway, we took that opportunity to have fun and try to get people to learn things while they were having fun. So we would do a lot of interesting techniques to get kids excited and maybe tell their parents about things. One of our favorite things to do was poop facts. So that obviously grabs everybody's attention. Everybody loves a good poop fact. So poop fact for lobsters. Some species of lobsters actually eat a lot of jellyfish, which have stinging cells on them. So the lobsters that do that, they actually have adapted to coat their feces with a membrane inside of their intestines so that they don't get stung from the inside out. It's like a invisibility cloak for poop inside. It's pretty awesome. So anyway, poop fact. If you want to really get to the heart of any conservation issues, start with poop and you'll get there. So harvesting rules and regulations for species throughout the world are very important. We get a lot of funding for research and conservation efforts that come from the purchasing of our fishing and hunting licenses. That also comes from other sources, but that's a big one, and it's an important resource that we all want to keep around for a long time, not only for ourselves, but for the environment. For example, lobsters do tons of things out in the ecosystem that benefit more than just humans, so we need to keep that in perspective. So mini season may have really caught us off guard. Some might say it snuck up really quick. Shameless Carly plug. Yeah, so it's important when we're out there to make sure, you do have your correct licenses and permits and everything to fish and to hunt. But especially for mini season coming up, you want to do your best to follow the rules. One of the biggest rules that comes to mind is that 3-inch carapace that you need to make sure they have. It takes a lobster 2 years to even reach that size, and once they reach that size, they're able to reproduce. So if we harvest a lobster before it's reached that size, it hasn't even had the opportunity to contribute to the wild population. So all of these rules and regulations have a reason behind them. They might not make sense at first, but once you dig a little deeper, you'll find out that it's really important. So one of the opportunities I got to help out with when I was working in the Keys on Caribbean spiny lobsters was looking at a virus that was impacting the fishery down there. So lobsters naturally like to hang out together. They don't like to be solo. They like to be with their buddies, and they can figure out where other lobsters are using chemoreceptors. So they're able to sense their environment and see who's around. They can tell if there's predators around. They can tell if it's a really relaxed place, cool place to hide. They can tell this by what other lobsters are telling them. So say you're a lobster hanging out in a little nook and you smell another shameless Carly plug, an octopus. That's a really big predator of the lobster. So if you're a lobster and you're picking up that there's some hemolymph floating around, some blood from a lobster that just got predated by an octopus, you can pick up on that and not go in that spot. we were looking at a specific disease that put out a certain smell by lobsters, and healthy lobsters wouldn't go there. So they communicate in ways that we can't even really begin to understand in our our senses that we can experience. But might have a guest showing of our children running around. Anyway, they're really good at communicating and hiding, and we're actually seeing some interesting stuff with this research. Sometimes the lobsters would prefer to hide in a little hide that smelled like an octopus, as opposed to a hide that smelled like a diseased lobster. So anyways, there's some really interesting research coming out of that project, but it was just one of my first experiences with this species, and it was a joy to be working in Lockheed with them. So as humans, or mermaids, might also be predators of lobsters, it's important to remember those regulations and those rules. Again, it takes about 2 years for a lobster to even reach the size to reproduce, but it's got so many obstacles to overcome, aside from mermaids and octopuses, to make it to that point. So they're starting out as a little larva, smaller than my thumbnail, getting to the point where it's a 3-inch carapace-sized adult. It's got to overcome predators. It's got to overcome climate change. It's got to overcome plastic in its habitat. It's got to overcome all these other things that we're throwing at it, on top of us harvesting it. So following those rules and regulations is really important, especially if we want this amazing creature to be around for not only our future generations, but future generations of wildlife that depend on these species for their survival. So if you're harvesting lobsters, following the rules and regulations put in place, you're sustainably harvesting that species. So if we venture outside of that, there's the chance that these animals won't be around for much longer. So that's an important thing to think about for all other species, especially other marine life. There's a really great cheat sheet put out by the Monterey Bay Aquarium that's called Sea Watch, and it tells you good choices of species that are harvested sustainably, whether they're farm raised in a good manner, or they're harvested in areas where they shouldn't be, or using methods that they shouldn't be captured or harvested. We want to make sure that our future generations and our own offspring get to enjoy these lobsters for their lives. Woo! Good ones! We need to do our best to do what's right by that species and keep them around. So think of our future, think of our world, and yeah, thanks for having me, Carly.
Thank you so much, Johnny. I'm so glad that we got to get together and do this, sort of, long distance ways.
Say bye!